Why do we love video games? This is a question I really thought about the other day, and I began to ponder about it to myself. And to answer that question, I really just have to look back on where it all started. You see, I didn't grow up with the best childhood. I was mostly raised by my single mother, especially during my early years, and she was gone for almost all the day. I was in school, I was in daycare, and my mom worked non-stop. Sure, I had a decent house, toys, clothes, shoes, a warm bed, food, but I didn't really have what I really needed, which was the attention of my parental figures. I eventually did have a parental figure in my life, which was my stepfather Tim, and there would later be some sort of a family unit. However, again, my parents worked for most of the time, and I was alone for quite a bit of it. And what made it worse is that I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings who could really push me to do other things in my life, so it was just all on me, and I didn't really even understand what I was doing more than half the time, because most of my parental figures were either with me for only a few hours or not at all. So I can remember the first video game I was ever given was when I went up to my dad's store, because right after school I would be taken to my dad's store because my mom was still at work in Dallas, which was like more than 3 hours from where I lived at that point. And I would stay there up until school ended from 3 to about 6. So for 3 hours I was just kind of there at my dad's work, and there really wasn't just anything for me to do. I was mostly just playing around with all of his tools and stuff like that, because it was an auto parts store, and I was like putting little rubber bits together and stuff like that. And professionally, it's not really looked highly upon when a child is playing around with your inventory. So my dad tried to figure out a quick, easy fix to try and preoccupy me. And I think this is something, and I'm not blaming my stepdad, and I'm not blaming my mother for anything. It's just, this is something that happens quite a bit, is that the family members, the parents, are busy and they need something to preoccupy the child, and they give them a tablet or something else. Luckily, my first thing wasn't a tablet. The first thing I was given was a Game Boy Advanced, and the first video game I ever played was Super Mario Bros. 2 on the Game Boy. I can remember playing that game non-stop, just having to beat every little level, having to beat the mouse, having to beat the dragon, the toad, everything that was in that game. I had to find all the little secrets, all the little nooks and crannies, and I loved it. And later on, eventually, we got a Wii, and we started playing. What were some games that I started playing? Avatar with the blue people, directed by James Cameron. Yes, there was a video game on the Wii and it was actually pretty legit, I'm not gonna lie. If that buzzer goes off one more time. Anyways, these games were like Super Mario Brothers. I can remember my dad, my biological father, going over to his house. He bought me a Wii, and he bought me new Super Mario Brothers on the Wii. And I can remember playing that for hours and hours and hours, collecting all the coins, beating all the bosses, learning how it all worked. Eventually I'd branch out and play games like Skyward Sword, Wii Sports Resort. And my parents, they definitely tried to, at some points, play them with me, but they were busy, and a lot of times they didn't fully understand them, or, yeah. And my dad, at that point, he kind of just saw video games as, a waste of time. And they are. I will get to that in a moment. It's just the thing that I noticed was I was given video games because my parents didn't have time for me. And that's not a bad thing. We have a busy world. We have a busy earth. That's fine. I understand that. And my dad, who I would go over and see, my biological father, he would let me play video games and do whatever to keep me preoccupied, because he was dating other girls, or he was, that was just the way he preoccupied me. We'd watch movies together, we'd do a couple other things, but I wasn't learning anything. I had no sort of masculinity drive whatsoever, and now, sorry, just a lot of things are just starting to roll around in my head. Eventually, as I got older, I played more mature video games that were getting more, I guess you could say, violent. Like Fallout, Skyrim, and some other big ones that I played. And then I eventually discovered Minecraft from my friend Dale, and I can remember playing that hundreds of hours on end, and just how many hours I wasted. And I wish I could have them back, but I can't. I found all these games, and I got nothing really out of it. So, by my teens, my mother had finally quit her job, and she was basically a part of the house now, instead of working. And anytime, she wanted to try and spend time with me or anything like that, I really didn't want anything to do with her, because I was already, and my dad, he was trying to teach me more masculine things, like how to use a lawnmower, how to fix a car, and what's not. And I was just so heavily addicted to video games that I really didn't care about anything other than just going back into my safe space, I guess you could say. And I more or less became a hermit to my own carnal vices, and video games were one of those big ones. I just can remember every time when I got home from school, all I wanted to do was play video games. Didn't want to do my homework, didn't want to talk to anyone other than my friends. I just didn't really care about anything at that point anymore. Eventually, my mental health just started vastly deteriorating until a lot of other bad stuff started happening, which I will not be getting into in this video. Maybe another day, but not today. And I can remember now that my parents were deeply involved in my life now. They were trying to pull me out of this, and it was kind of too late. I was just didn't care about anything else, and I just, at that point, I wanted to die, because all I wanted was to be in that world. I wanted to be in Minecraft. I didn't want to be in reality. I hated reality. Hated everything about it. I hated living. I hated everything about it. And this is why I think video games are dangerous, because they can be just so addictive that you become a complete and total hermit. There were some other factors in there for sure that I'm leaving out for good reason, but video games were a huge reason, and I think anyone who plays video games more than anyone who says like an hour a day, they're lying. Anyone who plays maybe 5 hours a month, I don't see the point in it. I think video games are truly a waste of time. I think they are just designed to destroy because they want to give you a false sense of reality. And I don't want that. If you want my honest advice, quit video games now before you get to my age at 20 years old when you have no skills. That way you can do something in the future. Anyways, peace.